Bickley and Marotta Mornings. Arizona Sports. The local sports leader. Bickley Blast.
The Cardinals lost another home game on Sunday, which they've been doing a lot in recent years, but they lost an even bigger opportunity. And once again, I'm talking about their home field disadvantage, which again surfaced at the very worst time. Now, leading by 21 points in the third quarter, the Cardinals were ready to make a brave new declaration, embarrassing an opponent and all their Big Blue wearing fans in attendance. And that is the only way this bull junk is ever going to stop, to make opposing fans so emotionally uncomfortable and out of place that they never want to set foot in Glendale ever again. Alas, the Cardinals gave it all back, and at the end, those Giants fans who were both muted and mauled in the first half, well, they ended up disrupting the Cardinals' offense and their communication at the line of scrimmage, tilting the game in their team's favor. They came into our house with muddy shoes, and they left with all our jewelry. It is all so tiring, and this weekend's game against the Cowboys might be the worst seen in the history of Glendale football, and the last few years have effectively proven it wasn't Sun Devil Stadium holding this franchise back. After all, it was dysfunction and failure and will continue to be so until the Cardinals prove they have had enough. All right, today's Bickley Blast brought to you by my great friends at Chapman BMW. Make luxury attainable. Find them online at chapmanbmw.com.
Yeah, I think, it's unfortunate. We got to coach a little bit better because everything that, for them to get back in the game, the way they got back in the game, kind of tale of two halves, they did. So that, solely falls on me and the coaches, and we got to do a better job of coaching those things up to make sure that, some of the explosives, some of the red zone stuff, but tale of two halves, and we just couldn't get a stop when we needed to get a stop.
Yeah, just Jonathan Gannon in his first home game as the Cardinals head coach, just totally falling on the sword and including his staff, taking the brunt of the responsibility, which, you have to do that. You mentioned it earlier in the show. That probably goes a long way with the players who were on the field for those failings. Look, I'm not an excuse guy, especially when you have a 20-point lead and a 21-point lead late in the game. Mm-hmm. Cardinals were playing without 4 of their defensive starters from week 1. L.J. Collier is going to be out for a while. Didn't sound good when Jonathan Gannon was asked about his status for the rest of the year. Lecky Fotu missed the game. Josh Woods was out. Budda Baker was out. They lost Carlos Watkins during the game. So they were a little bit shorthanded. Not an excuse, but...
No, they're definitely factors.
Yes.
And Buddha's the kind of guy that when things were getting sideways in the second half might be able to either make a play or get the team organized or just kind of put an end to it. And so, I think some of that is very valid. I really do. The shame of it is that once again in an endgame situation, the offense really struggled to finish. But there were a lot of good things that came out of that game yesterday, and to ignore that would be foolish, because that first half was a revelation. Yeah, I wasn't sure the offense was capable of doing something like that, but they did, and now it's just a matter of, okay, what can you do now? Can you find enough belief and clean up details to the point where you not only competitive in the next few weeks, but maybe spring an upset somewhere against these very powerful teams? Or is this going to be the beginning of a lot of stuff? Doubt, injury, blowouts, losing streaks.
That's you're taking the thoughts right out of my head. I was thinking about this earlier. Yes, we're talking about an 0-2 football team. That's not a surprise. Is it a surprise that we're talking about an 0-2 football team that could very easily, with a play here or there, be 2-0? Yes, that's a surprise, but buckle up, because those blowouts, those embarrassing performances could very well be on the way.
Yes.
When you're going into games, back-to-back games against Dallas, whose defense looks like it is hungrier than ever, and they've given up 10 points total in 2 games and made things miserable for the Jets yesterday.
They're a nightmare.
And San Francisco looked formidable on both sides of the ball.
Both of them are going to be nightmares. And so, as we've said from day one, this is the needle that Jonathan Gannon has to thread. And that is, you've got to build a culture while sustaining losses. Some of them may be embarrassing. So yesterday's game was the first time when the Cardinals kind of had to wear this, how did you let that slip away? Week 1 was a winnable game, but it was also a morale victory, a moral victory. They performed that well in front of a hostile crowd. And when was the last time anyone said that about a Commanders crowd? So, but yesterday was a different story. And now if the Cowboys roll in here and hang a pasting on this team, and then you know how this works. Players, they get agitated. Life is not easy for football players stuck on losing teams. Weeks become very long. You're not celebrated in public. It's just a bad deal. And so that's why yesterday was really a lost opportunity. You get that victory. At least you've got a little chunk of affirmation going into this stretch. Now you've just got to continue on with faith. And this is going to be tough for Jonathan Gannon to pull off. I've been very impressed with him so far, his demeanor, his poise, his control. I think he's setting the right kind of tone. It looks like guys believe in him. And his desire for killers, it looks like he has that. Let's keep your fingers crossed, because like you said, I don't know what this is going to look like three weeks from now.
He has bruisers. He has wounders. They don't kill yet at the end. They need the guys that can finish it off.
That's a good point.
So far.
They hurt them. He's got herders.
Flesh wounders.
Yeah.
I was wondering, too, after the night and day difference in the Giants from the first half to the second half, I was like, what did Brian Daboll do? I mean, they're down 20-0 after losing 40-0 last week. He must have broken a lot of stuff or said words that haven't even been invented yet. Daniel Jones was asked afterwards, hey, what did your head coach say at halftime?
He definitely, preached kind of the urgency we needed and the importance of starting fast in the second half and taking advantage of some opportunities. But, he's consistent. He's that, fiery, passionate, same message he always gives, and guys took to it.
Now, he said it wasn't a lot of yelling and screaming, and he was kind of, and other players said it wasn't like that either. But Daboll himself said, quote, the message, not a bunch, a little bit, but we'll keep that in-house. Execution plays a big part of football. I thought they executed well.
You had mentioned going into the weekend that part of the reason why some of the week 1 scores were kind of like on the low end is that nobody can throw the ball deep anymore. That everyone's playing 2 safeties high and nobody is going to live with the consequences of getting burned over the top by any of these great quarterbacks. For that to happen on the first play of the second half, I think that gives you a unique window into the Cardinals' mindset. And then Daniel Jones pulled off an RPO where he basically walked into the end zone.
Yeah, that was a beautiful
Oh,
fake.
yeah. and so right away, and then Carlos Watkins got hurt somewhere along the way. And I think it's not that Carlos Watkins is that important to the defense, but I think when you lap that on top of the L.J. Collier loss and the Budda Baker loss, Lecky Fotu loss, now you're past the point of diminishing returns. So it's just unfortunate. A lot of fight in this football team. There's been a lot of good over the first 2 weeks. This has been much more compelling than I thought it was going to be.
I agree with that completely. But, in a season where you look at the landscape in front of you and just based on the level of competition you're playing, and we knew this was going to be a tough schedule when it came out in April, you got to win the games that you have a chance to win. And it seems weird to say that against a team where you don't identify, like we've talked about the fact that the Cardinals are not going to be favored in any game this year. They haven't been through 2 weeks, but they've had leads in both, double-digit leads in both of these games. You have to find ways to win those games because it's going to get rockier.
Yep.
And that's the disappointing part to me.